How are you tonight? Tonight we start a new series called The Spirituality of Travel. How many of you have ever had a spiritual experience in a hotel room? How about in an airplane? In a rental car? Right? Here's what we're going to look at tonight. We're going to look at where and how we can have spiritual experiences on the road. Because one of the things that's amazing about when you move onto the road is that you tend to leave your little control zone. True? And for some of us, it makes us feel kind of vulnerable. How many of you ever felt vulnerable in a hotel or in an airplane or in an airport when your flight was canceled and there were 6,000 people trying to get where you were going? Right? And over again, what I want you to see is that travel brings us back to ourselves. So that's what we're going to focus on for the next 3 weeks. We're going to talk about the spirituality of travel. And I think it's going to be fun. And I'm glad you're here. I am so glad you're here. You ready to get started? Our opening statement is, my life is an adventure. Is that what it says? My life, that's what I said. My life is a spiritual adventure. Let's say that together. My life is a spiritual adventure. I want you to open your mind, your heart, your soul as we move into a time of prayer. And I want you to really feel that your life is a spiritual adventure. That it's absolutely here to reveal to you over and over again God. And all the ways that you were created to express God. My life's a spiritual adventure. And the more that we open our eyes, the more that we actually see life, the more that we see God. So whatever's going on in your life today, I want you to look at it as a spiritual adventure. And that God is right there, right in the midst of you, in every moment of every day. And that we can actually feel the presence of God with us in every moment. In the name and through the power of the living Christ, we give thanks. And so it is. Amen. Why don't you take a deep breath and feel the presence and power of God that is within you and all around you. And I want you to just feel how completely enfolded you are in God. That there is no place you could ever go that is outside of God. That God is the spirit that you live and move and have your very being in. It is your essence. It is your truth. It is your sacred center. God is within you and all around you. So take a deep breath. And tonight I'm going to ask in this time of prayer and meditation that you give all your fears and concerns to God. If there's anything that you've been anxious about or fearful about or worried about or concerned about, whether it's for yourself or another, that you give it to God. And how deeply, how fully can you let go of the drama in your life? And what if tonight you just practice loving God? That instead of trying to figure out your life, what if you just loved God right here, right now? Right where you are. I love God. I love God with all that I am. I love God with all that I hope to be. I love God in a way that's greater than my fears and my concerns, greater than my pettiness and my drama, greater than all my insecurities. I love God. I love the God that's within me and all around me. I love the God in others. I love the God in every moment. I love God. I love the presence and power that created the universe and everything in it. I love the presence of God that watches over my family and friends and the entire world. I love the Spirit of God that's at work in every life, leading them to a greater level of good. I love that I'm surrounded and enfolded in pure love. I love God. And the more that I love God, the more I feel God's infinite love for me. The more I love God, the safer I feel. The more blessed I feel. The more connected I feel. That in every moment of every day I have a challenge, I have a choice. I can be in my head and my fears and my worries, or I can decide just to love God. Tonight I just love God. Tonight I just love God. Not from my mind or my thoughts, but from my heart and my soul. I love God. I love that I'm created in the image and likeness of God. I love that I'm God's expression. I love God. And the more I love God, the more peace I feel in my soul. The more a deep calm takes over my life. I love God. In the name and through the power of the living Christ, we give thanks. And so it is. Amen. Okay, so tonight we're talking about travel. So how many of you like to travel? Really? All right. How many of you have a favorite travel spot? Okay, somebody shout out your favorite travel spot. Utah, okay? Southwest? Michigan? Canada? Caribbean? San Diego? Rocky Point? Provence. Oh, well, oui. All right. All right. What else? Anybody else have a favorite travel spot? Anywhere. Leonard's willing to go anywhere. His bags are packed. He is ready to go. So how many of you consider yourself travelers? How many of you, so I have a distinction between vacationers and travelers. Right? You know what the distinction is? Travelers want to travel. Vacationers want to get there. Right? So if you're a vacationer, and there's nothing wrong with being a vacationer, because sometimes we're all vacationers, you know, we just want to get there and we want to unpack and we, you know, how quickly can we get to the beach or whatever the spot is, right? But there's a difference between vacationing and traveling. Right? Because traveling implies that you're going to be out of control. Right? Because traveling implies that I'm going to go on an adventure that think I know where I'm going, but how it's going to work, I have an idea, but I'm not quite sure. You know, traveling started out originally by foot, and then it moved to sailing boats, to sailing ships. And one of the things about if you're sailing to a destination, you actually have to go, there's only so many new directions you can go with the wind. So sometimes you're actually sailing away from your destination to get to where you want to go. And to our rational mind that likes to be in control, we have a hard time thinking, I want to go this way, but I'm actually going to sail this way. And somehow that makes sense. So can you see times in the past where you were traveling and you wanted to be vacationing? Right? So you wanted it just to get there so the fun could start, and the fun actually began when you bought the ticket. Right? But it doesn't look like that to us, right? Because it looks to us that we're not really going to have fun until we get there. And that mindset is really almost exacerbated by our culture today. Like when we get on a plane, we expect that it's going to land at exactly the same moment it's supposed to. And if our luggage takes more than 5 minutes to get from the plane to the carousel, we start getting a little cranky. And we kind of miss the whole thing that we're actually in another city. Have you ever done that? Have you ever gotten got on the plane, maybe talking with friends, whatever, and you actually got to the next city, and the whole idea that you're just moved across the country and it happened so quickly, just completely, we missed the point. That we're in another city. And our luggage actually got there. And we didn't have to carry it. We weren't on a donkey for 10 days. You know? We've sometimes kind of missed the point. And what I want you to see is that sometimes the way we miss the point in travel, sometimes that's the way we miss the point in life. It's that we forget that what we're experiencing really is amazing. And just because we can do it and we do it over and over and over again, it doesn't take away from how amazing life really is. That most of us can get on a plane and go across the country in 5 hours and be there and experience all that spot has to offer is no small thing. And the challenge is that more and more places, more and more hotels, more and more things are starting to look exactly the same. So you really can't tell if you're in a hotel room where the heck you are, because they have a tendency now to all look the same. So we actually have to bring the specialness back to travel, because it is special. So this week in the Rogers household, my daughter graduated from grad school. She is now a graduate. She is now a fully educated physician assistant. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. She has to pass her bar this month or pass her boards this month, and then she's already got a position and she's moving to Anchorage, Alaska. And she's getting married in September and then moving to Anchorage, Alaska with her fiance, then husband. And it's an exciting time. So Mom flew in, my mother flew in for the graduation. She flew in on last Thursday. Graduation was on Friday. Graduations are so long. Lovely but long, right? So we had graduation. We had a graduation party on Friday night. Lovely, lovely, lovely. 5 o'clock in the morning, my mom and I, because I had a speaking engagement in San Diego, not too bad, speaking engagement in San Diego, we got in the car, because she lives in Huntington Beach, so I was going to speak in San Diego and then drive her back up so we could do a little road trip together. I don't know if my mom and I have ever done a road trip, and at 81, it seemed like it was appropriate time for my mom and I to do a road trip together. So at least that was the plan, right? So we were going to do a road trip. And I've really softened in the way I travel. I mean, as a high A, some of you know that we used to be, I'm kind of now like an A minus, but I was a hard A personality type, right? And so travel for me was systematic, how quick, when do we stop, stopping too long, get there, but it was about getting there. And I have so relaxed in the way I travel now. And my mom being 81, we had to make sure that we stopped regularly and often just for her comfort in this process. So we talked about where she wanted to stop, how long she thought she could drive at a time, and she really wanted to go. She loves to go hear me speak. Even if I'm saying the same thing every time she goes, she just loves to do that. So we were going to San Diego. We get in the car, 5 a.m. How I got her up at 5 a.m., I don't know. She was actually awake. So we got her in the car 5 a.m. because I wanted to make sure that we were driving during the coolest part of the day for her. So when we had to get out, it wouldn't be too hot for her. So we're driving. We get to the first stop, which is supposed to be Gila Bend. Gila Bend had a storm last Friday night, and all the power was out in the whole town, right? So they don't let you in to use the restroom if it's dark, right? So, okay, we're traveling now, right? So the first plan was Gila Bend, first stop, fill up, make sure if she needs breakfast or whatever, we're going to get her all set. First place is closed. I mean, literally, signs closed. They've closed the whole little town, right? So we decided we're going to drive a little further. We get to Wellington, Arizona. Ever been there? Wellington, Arizona it's on the way to Yuma. And we stop at a Chevron station, get gas, help mom get the restroom, taking care of all that. And there's a little burrito place in the gas station itself that doesn't open to 8 o'clock. And seriously, it's only 7:30. We've been on the road from 5 o'clock, 7:30. But people are, the people that work there, the owners, are going in and out. So I just kind of opened the door, stuck my head in, and said, "Are you guys open yet?" Knowing the sign said 8 o'clock, but I just thought, well, they said, "Come on in." So 3 little ladies, cutest ladies in the whole world, said, "Here's what's on the menu, but we'll make anything you want." Oh, it was so sweet, right? So I said, well, I like a breakfast burrito, and this is what I want on it. And they go, no problem. They made fresh, homemade tortillas for my breakfast burrito. Eyes rolled back in my head. Fabulous, right? Mother's never had a breakfast burrito, ordered a breakfast burrito, loved the breakfast burrito. We get gas. We said we just had the best experience in Wellington, Arizona. If you're ever there, stop at the Chevron station. Go to the burrito place that's in the back of the Chevron station. You will absolutely love it. It's an unsolicited testimonial. They just did a great job, right? So then we're back on the road, and we get to Alpine, California. Pine Valley, California. Pine Valley, California. Ever been to Pine Valley, California? It's a little town off the 8 near Alpine. It's got a couple little restaurants there. It's a cute little town. So I thought, Mom, it's a cute little town. You'll love it. We're going to stop there. We'll go to the bathroom, fill up. It'll be great. You'll love it. We get off the freeway, and they're having a craft fair that they have once a year. The place is slammed. And not only are they having a craft fair, but they are having a parade. And the detour for the parade goes right. I mean, as we're driving into town, we are seeing the whole parade go by us. I mean, we don't even have to get out. The horses are there. The band is there. The little funny cars are there. I mean, we get to see everybody as we're. The only thing we can't get to is a bathroom because the whole town is shut down because of this parade. So we Google how to get out of there. We go to the next little spot. We're set. We're going. Everything's good. Take Mom to our favorite restaurant in San Diego. Fabulous. Everything's great. Get to the hotel, turn on my computer to go over my notes for talk next morning, and my computer doesn't start. I mean, it's like it says hello, and then that's it. I mean, there's like nothing there, and it's like usually what I do is I back it up so that I usually take a paper version of my talk in my workshop if I'm doing that, and guess who didn't do that? No, computer pops up, and it only goes to the first screen, and it just refuses to go beyond the first screen. And so, right? But this is what? This is travel, right? Because travel, sometimes it doesn't go the way you expect it to go. So this computer pops up and it doesn't work. So I'm thinking about what I do. I turn it off, I turn it on, I turn it off, I turn it on at least 50 times because I'm sure that the next time it's really going to work, right? Turn it off, turn it on, turn it off, turn it on. Nothing. It's nothing. So at 5 a.m., I get up, and I had a CD of a talk the talk that I was going to give that I'd given 2 weeks earlier in another church. So I put the talk in, and I make crazy notes in the car listening to the CD, and then I go to the hotel computer and I type it all up so I have it. I don't have a workshop, but I think I can fake 2 hours. But I really, as long as the talk's good, I'll fake the 2-hour workshop, right? So the talk went so well, right, that the workshop was packed. Thought, maybe I should have spent a little time thinking about the workshop, right? But it worked out great, right? And what I want you to see through all this craziness is the moment we decide to travel. We bought our ticket. Even if we're driving, we bought our ticket. We chose an adventure. And the adventure really means that at some level, we're completely out of control. And in that place of being out of control, we have to decide if we're safe. Because for some of us, we only feel safe when we have absolute control over everything. And in our home or in our life or in our work, what tends to happen is we learn how to kind of just organize everything so that we have this heightened sense of control that gives us the illusion that we're in charge. But when you're traveling, when you're on the road, what happens very quickly is that illusion that you're in charge, that you're in control, it begins to break down pretty quickly. Because nobody in Gila Bend cared that that's where we picked to go to the bathroom for the first time. And they didn't really care in Pine Valley that I was going to take Mom to this cute little place. They didn't really care. They were not going to cancel their parade for us. I thought about asking, and I realized maybe that was a little arrogant, right? And my computer certainly didn't care that I had plans for it to work over this trip. It didn't care. So then I was left with just me and God. And over and over and over again, what it comes down to is that everything worked out. It didn't work out the way I thought it was going to work out. But it worked out. So here are a couple ideas that I'd like to share with you. The first one is, do you know how you get to Paris? You know how you get to Paris? You book it. The first principle I want you to see in travel is that if you want to go on an adventure, you have to have the courage to book it. My friend Daniel Namod, he's the one that taught me this one, because so many times in our life we want to go on an adventure, but for whatever reason, we don't book it. And the adventure doesn't happen until you book it. And the moment you book it, at some level, you just bought a ticket to an adventure, and if you tell yourself the truth, there's a level of vulnerability in that. That you just bought a ticket, and you have a hope or a desire or a dream how that trip's going to be or how it's going to go or what the experiences you're going to have. But at some level, you're completely out of control. You can buy your ticket and you can hope for the best and you can pray to God. And at some level, when you buy your ticket, you're in for the ride. And that sense of vulnerability sometimes is what keeps us from life, keeps us from the moment, keeps us from taking the next adventure. But what I want you to see is it's in that vulnerability that you come in and see yourself, where you get to experience yourself. And sometimes on travel, we get to experience that we get a little cranky. Have you ever been cranky on a trip? Because in the presence of feeling out of control, we get scared. So the first thing I want you to hear is, what in your life have you been too afraid to actually book? What trip, what adventure, what opportunity have you been thinking about, wanting, desiring, longing for, but you haven't given yourself the opportunity to book it? Now, what's the number one excuse that we give for not booking it? Money. Usually money, maybe time, but usually money. So money is the thing that we say to ourselves, if I could afford this, I would. Right? One of the things I want you to look at is, if we live in an abundant universe, the moment you commit to something, then heaven begins to move on your behalf. Wanting something doesn't always cause the universe to move. True? But when you actually make a commitment that I'm going to get to Paris this year, it's amazing how the universe begins to respond to you. Because the moment you declare something, the moment you decree something, the moment you state something as a reality, the universe assumes that you're serious. So what desire, what trip, what experience has your soul been longing for that you haven't given yourself permission to book yet? And what if this year you decide to book it? To book the trip? Could you imagine that the universe could actually open the door to support you in that adventure? Now, how many of you know that there was a time when people took spiritual pilgrimages? You know what a spiritual pilgrimage was? It was a place, many times it was Mecca or the Vatican. People would go to their holy place to have a spiritual experience. Here's what I want you to look at. I think for many of us, there's places in this world that awaken our soul in a way that's unique to that place. Whether it's Hawaii or Europe or wherever your place is. Here's what I'm going to invite you to look at tonight. What if you were willing to look at taking a trip to awaken your soul? Where the purpose was to awaken something in you. Maybe it's a reminder. Maybe it's a deep soul recollection. Would you be willing this year, in the next 12 months, to take a trip, and I don't care where it is, the purpose is to awaken you. No matter what it is, no matter where it is, maybe it's Hawaii, maybe it's Barstow. I mean, I don't care where it is, right? But would you be willing to take a trip that's simply for your soul's benefit, for your soul's awakening? See, because the way we look at travel most of the time is that after everything else is taken care of, if there's anything left over, now we get to go take a vacation. And I'm really not talking about a vacation on this trip. I'm actually talking about a trip that you take for your soul. That's not a vacation. It's an adventure. You might not even like the trip. Right? It may take you to a place that really opens something magnificent within you that you didn't even know was there. But it is a spiritual adventure. So first one is I want you to book it. Second thing I want you to hear is I want you to take a spiritual adventure, a pilgrimage, if you would. And the third thing I want you to see is that travel, true travel, takes us back to ourselves. That it takes you to a deeper space in you that awakens our soul. Judy Schwiebert shared a quote with me this afternoon on Facebook. I want to share it with you. Once we begin to see travel as an inner journey, and this is from the book by Joseph Dispenza called The Way of the Traveler. Once we begin to see travel as an inner journey, it is possible to turn every trip we take into spiritual practice. Understanding that, the road takes us to an encounter with the stranger at the heart of the journey, our own transformed self. Book it. Take a spiritual pilgrimage. Traveling takes us back to ourselves. And the fourth one, and maybe the most important, my brother with his family, every time they would get in the car and start the car, he would say the prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us. The power of God protects us. Presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is. And I always thought that was so cool, because every time he started the car, his kids in the back seat would just start the prayer. Because they had done the prayer since they were little, that they would just start the prayer, the light of God. And it was almost like the moment they start the car, the moment the trip begins, even if it's just to the grocery store, the little voices in the back would just say, the light of God. I mean, it was just start. So I believe that when we do spiritual travel, it awakens us and takes us closer to God. Because when your computer doesn't start, or when you can't find a bathroom, or when there's nothing to eat, or whatever, there's really two ways to do it, right? We can get cranky about it, or we can look at it as spiritual practice. And if we look at it as spiritual practice, everything takes us to God. So you ready for your homework? So this week, I want you to take a trip. You think, well, Richard, I can't take a trip. I got to work, blah, blah, blah. Everybody can take one trip this week. And I don't care if it's to a grocery store that you don't usually shop at. I don't care if it's a restaurant that you've never been to before. I don't care if you go to Chandler, clear to Chandler, right? I don't care where you go, but I want everybody to take one trip this week, right? To a place that you're not familiar with, to a place that you don't know, to a place that maybe makes you feel vulnerable, to a place that maybe you don't understand where the food is, or how the grocery store is lined up, or to some place you've never been before. And I want you to do it as a traveler, not as a vacationer. I want you to do it from an awake spiritual place where you actually embrace exactly the way it is. See, the bottom line for me in all travel, it comes to acceptance. See, there's something that goes on in our mind when we're traveling that says it shouldn't be like this. Right? The plane shouldn't have to stop, it should when it's supposed to, but you know what I was going, right? Right? So there's a thing in our mind where every time there's a hurdle or an obstacle or an inconvenience, our mind goes to a place that says, it shouldn't be like that. But our spirit is willing to be in there for the ride. And what if in this trip you take this week, every time your mind wants to say, I shouldn't be going across town to a grocery store. Who goes across town to a grocery store? Or who goes to a restaurant they've never been before? I didn't even read the reviews. I'm not even sure I'm going to like it. I'm not even sure what kind of food they serve here. That every time your mind wants to go to it shouldn't be this way, I want you to say the words, I trust God in this. Will you say that with me? I trust God in this. One more time. I trust God in this. And the moment we're willing to be with God, we move from vacationers to true spiritual travelers. Let's close with prayer. I invite you to open your mind, your heart, your soul to the activity of God that is right here, right now. I want you to just breathe that in. That you get to be a spiritual traveler. That you get to trust God in every situation. That wherever you are, the full Spirit of God is working with you and for you for good. And so it is. Amen.